to share findings and experiences in polar research and also provide the platform for scientists to strengthen existing and forge new collaboration. MISA also provides opportunities for local scientists and students who are interested in pursuing their career in polar sciences, especially in global sciences. Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to begin today's opening ceremony. To ensure a smooth running of our event, we would like to seek everyone's cooperation to mute the microphone button in the toolbar of your screens when the event starts at 10:30 a.m. So sit back and enjoy today's event.
Selamat pagi, His Excellency.
Mihhailo, Ambassador of Ukraine to Malaysia, His Excellency Diego Velasco, Ambassador of Chile to Malaysia, the Honorable Professor Datuk Dr. Azizan Abu Sama, Director of the National Antarctic Research Centre, the Honorable Professor Technologist Dr. Muhammad Nazib Suratman, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Research and Innovation, University Technology Mara, the Honorable Mr. Muhammad Nasaruddin Abdul Rahman, the Chief Executive Officer of Yayasan Penyelidikan Antartika Sultan Mizan, Ministry Official, Ambassador, representative from the embassies, members of YPASM, Board of Trustees, officials from universities, invited speaker, participant of MISA9, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the opening ceremony of the 9th Malaysian International Seminar on Antarctica with the theme Polar Region Matter in Our Climate Crisis.
I am Dr. Azana Azizan from Social Creativity and Innovation Research Nexus UITM, and this is my partner, Dr. Abdul Hadi Abdul Razak from Cyber Technology Research Nexus UITM. We will be your MCs for today.
Ladies and gentlemen, as customary in this part of the world, before we proceed with the event, we will have a short recitation of Dua, which today will be led by the respectable Ustad Fauzan Tajweed. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ustad Fauzan Tajweed.
الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. صراط الذين أنعمت. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. رضيناه ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبمحمد نبيا ورسولا. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد. In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful, all praises are due only to Allah, Lord of the universe. Greetings and blessing be upon the most noble of prophets and messengers, our leader and guide, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and upon his family and his companions. O Allah, make us speak with guidance, inspire us with piety, give us success for that which is most pleasure, and employ us in what is most pleasing to you. O Allah, the most merciful, we are grateful and pleased to be here in this beautiful morning, in conjunction with virtual opening ceremony of the 9th Malaysian International Seminar on Antarctica, MISA9, officiating by His Royal Highness Al-Watiqu Billah Sultan Mizan Zain Al-Abidin Ibni Al-Marhum Sultan Mahmud Al-Muktafi Billah Shah, Sultan and Sovereign Ruler of the State Territory of Terengganu Darul Iman and all its dependencies. O Allah, please make this seminar a platform to widen the landscape of knowledge sharing session, a platform that completes each puzzle piece in the achieving success, and platform that could establish UITM as its credible and prestigious university that is respected by the whole wide world. O Allah, make us your servants that always admire all of your creatures. Make a tongue, the tongue that always moist with remembrance, glorifies and praises all your powers. May Allah Mighty all shower His blessing and bless upon His Royal Highness Al-Watiqu Billah Sultan Mizan Zain Al-Abidin Ibni Al-Marhum Sultan Mahmud Al-Muktafi Billah Shah and His Royal Highness, Her Royal Highness Sultanah Nur Zahirah, as well as the entire royal family of Terengganu, and protect them for all manner of harm and suffering. May Almighty Allah grant Your Royal Highness with good health and long life. Allahumma dafa' an al-ghala wal-bala wal-waba wal-fahsha wal-munkar ma zahara minha wa ma batan. O Allah, grant us prosperity, peace, security, and protect us from plagues and pandemics that threaten us, particularly the coronavirus disease. O Allah, accept from us this humble prayer. Verily you alone are the all-hearing, the all-knowing. Allahumma ja'al jam'ana hadha jam'an marhuma wa tafarruqna min ba'dihi tafarruqan ma'asuma wa la taj'al fina wa la ma'ana shaqiya wa la matruda wa la mahruma. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Amin, Amin, Ya Rabbal Alameen. Thank you to the respectable Ustad Fauzan Tajweed for the reciting the dua. Indeed, may our event be blessed by the grace of Allah.
The 9th Malaysian International Seminar on Antarctica is jointly organized by the Yayasan Pendidikan Antartika Sultan Mizan, the National Antarctic Research Centre Malaysia, and University Teknologi Mara, supported by the Ministry of Environment and Water. The key aim of MISA9 is to provide a platform to share and discuss polar climate variability, atmospheric dynamics, polar oceanography, climate and sea ice modeling, as well as biological response and adaptation. For your information, this year we are fortunate to receive a total of 54 abstracts from 4 keynotes and plenary sessions, 13 national participants, 13 international participants, and 7 workshops. We hope that the papers presented and shared over 3 days can be used toward creating mitigation measures, policies, and international cooperation and networking. We are sure everyone is eagerly awaiting to listen to the presentations and to deliberate and discuss the issues brought up in this 3 days international seminar. Ladies and gentlemen, to commence to the event, we would like to invite UiTM Vice Chancellor, the Honorable Professor Technologist Dr. Hajar Roziah Muhammad Janu, to formally welcome you this morning.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Honorable Professor Technologist Dr. Hajar Roziah Muhammad Janu.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera and a very good morning. Honorary Professor Datuk Dr. Azizan Abu Samah, Chairman MISA9 and Keynote Speaker, National Antarctic Research Centre and ARC Malaysia, Professor Dr. Satoshi Imura, Plenary Speaker, Biological Sciences, National Institute of Polar Research, NIPR, Japan, Associate Professor Dr. Daniela Liggett, Plenary Speaker, Policy and Governance, University of Canterbury in Christchurch, New Zealand, Dr. Thomas Bracegirdle, Plenary Speaker, Physical Sciences, British Antarctic Survey, Cambridge, UK, Honorary Professor, Technologist Dr. Muhammad Nazib Suratman, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Research and Innovation, University Teknologi Mara, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me a great pleasure to welcome you to the 9th Malaysian International Seminar on Antarctica, MISA, virtual informal meeting. I'm delighted to welcome ministers and other high-ranking participants and delegates. I would also like to extend a hearty greeting to all who are here today from observer states, technical communities, business sectors, and other stakeholder groups. This initiative is in tandem with the United Nations primary platform where scholars discuss how research findings can serve as accelerators of sustainable development to the Antarctica problem. Despite the fact that this has always been a critical issue for the world community, our conversations now are more relevant than ever. The current global health crisis has demonstrated the critical role of science, technology, and innovation in not only addressing COVID-19 related health care concerns, but also in supporting society and the economy at a period of major upheaval. A nice example is our first virtual meeting. Today, as we're having a debate about Antarctica, tomorrow the topics will revolve around harnessing rapid technological change for inclusive and sustainable development, and exploring space technologies for sustainable development and the benefits of international research collaboration in this context. The important policy messages resulting from both themes prioritize space for SDGs and rapid technology change based on Antarctica's intersessional work, and stress on the need for the international community to work together. These teams also look at how technology might help accelerate action in a cross-cutting way. The discussions will also assess how far MISA's outcomes have been implemented and can be further bolstered. In the face of challenges, both recurring and new, we need to realize that our actions or even inactions regarding Antarctica have far-reaching ramifications on global sustainability and development. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to call your attention to a few tangible steps that MISA has done since our previous session. Through regional dialogues, MISA hopes to improve on existing collaborations. We held one such consultation in Asia hosted by UITM and organized a similar conversation for Malaysian stakeholders during the intersessional cycle. Moreover, MISA has facilitated cross-national capacity building projects, particularly collaborations on Antarctica between Southeast Asian countries. Our scientists have worked with the Malaysian government on STI policy training courses for the past 2 years. In 2021, the collaboration grew from a single course to include a program for young scientists. Hence, I'm pleased to inform you of 2 additional training tracks, which are STI training courses in collaboration with the Malaysian government, and a new collaboration with UITM that offers joint research and training courses to young female scientists from developing countries, including doctoral study opportunities for young scientists. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to assure you that the work on Antarctica has not ceased even with the coronavirus outbreak. I've been informed that members and other stakeholders have also shared national-level STI answers to COVID-19, as well as legislative proposal and other remedies to guarantee that STI is used for the greater good. You are all most welcome to have a look at these contributions on MISA's website. I also understand that the MISA Secretariat has been involved in assisting STI policy players through the United Nations Interagency Task Team on STI, IATT, which aims to assist developing countries in scaling up local manufacture of vital health technologies required to combat COVID-19. On that note, I would like to congratulate MISA and UITM's organizing committee for the hard work in planning and making this conference a reality. To the participants, I certainly hope that your valuable input to the discussions here will contribute to a better perspective of the solutions needed to address the issues concerning Antarctica and what this would mean for the community at large. I wish you a successful and productive virtual meeting. Thank you.
Roziah Muhammad Jano for that warm welcoming speech. To continue with this morning event, we are pleased to have the Minister of Environment and Water Malaysia, the Honourable Datuk Seri Tuan Ibrahim Tuan Man, to address us here today. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Honourable Datuk Seri Tuan Ibrahim Tuan Man.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Alhamdulillah, marilah sama-sama kita merapatkan kesyukuran kehadrat Allah Subhanahu wa taala atas segala nikmat yang dikurniakan sehingga ke hari ini. Selawat dan salam kepada junjungan besar kita Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, ahli keluarga baginda dan para sahabat dan para tabi'in sehinggalah hari akhirat. Mudah-mudahan semua kita mendapat rahmat daripada Allah Subhanahu wa taala. Tuan-tuan dan puan-puan dirahmati Allah sekalian, saya besar hati ingin merakamkan jutaan terima kasih kepada para penganjur Yayasan Pendidikan Antartika Sultan Mizan atau Yapazam, Universiti Teknologi Mara UiTM dan Pusat Pendidikan Antartika Kebangsaan NARC kerana sudi menjemput saya untuk menyampaikan ucapan dalam majlis perasmian Malaysian International Seminar on Antarctica kali ke-9 atau MISA 9. Saya juga ingin mengalu-alukan kehadiran para peserta daripada dalam dan luar negara ke seminar ini. Semoga para peserta boleh mencambah pandangan, berkongsi pengalaman dan beroleh manfaat. Tema seminar pada kali ini ialah Polar Region Matters in Our Climate Crisis. Ya. Di mana tema yang membangkitkan kesedaran kita semua untuk mengambil peranan penting dalam memitigasi impak perubahan iklim terhadap persekitaran kawasan kutub. Tuan-tuan dan puan-puan dirahmati Allah sekalian, saya mulakan dengan memetik suatu ayat Quran firman Allah Ta'ala, a'udzubillahi minasyaitanir rajim, wabtaghi fima ataka Allahu ad-daral akhirah wa la tansa nasibaka minad dunya wa ahsin kama ahsana Allahu ilaik wa la tabghil fasada fil ardi innallaha yuhibbul mufsidin. Maksudnya, dan tuntutlah pada apa nikmat yang diberikan kepada kamu untuk kepentingan akhirat, dan janganlah kamu abaikan keperluan kamu di dunia. Berbuat baiklah seperti mana Allah Ta'ala berbuat baik kepada kamu, dan jangan kamu melakukan kerosakan di muka bumi. Sesungguhnya Allah tidak menyukai orang yang melakukan kerosakan. Menurut para ulama, terdapat 5 ayat Al-Quran yang menggambarkan kecintaan Allah terhadap orang yang membuat kebaikan atau melakukan perkara yang diistilahkan sebagai al-ihsan. Salah satu maksud al-ihsan ialah melimpahkan kebaikan kepada manusia atau kepada makhluk yang lain seperti tumbuhan dan haiwan. Firman Allah Ta'ala, wa ahsin kama ahsanallahu ilaik wa la tabghil fasada fil ard. Berbuat baiklah kamu kepada makhluk Allah sebagaimana Allah berbuat baik pada kamu, dan janganlah melakukan kerosakan di muka bumi. Sifat ihsan yang akan menuntut jiwa kita untuk melakukan perkara yang baik dan tidak melakukan kerosakan atau perkara-perkara yang mendatangkan kemudaratan kepada pihak yang lain. Tuan-tuan dan puan-puan dirahmati Allah sekalian, bumi adalah kurnia besar yang diamanahkan oleh Allah kepada kita semua. Justru kita wajib bertanggungjawab untuk memelihara, melestari dan menjaga keseimbangan dengan sebaik-baik mungkin. Cabaran dihadapi pada hari ini sangat kompleks, seperti pencemaran akibat kepesatan industri, pemanasan global dan perubahan iklim. Persoalan paling penting ialah bagaimana kita menangani perkara tersebut. Mutakhir ini juga, wacana utama alam sekitar di peringkat global ialah isu perubahan iklim. Menurut laporan penilaian saintifik ke-6 mengenai perubahan iklim oleh Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change atau IPCC, peningkatan pemanasan global sebanyak 1 darjah Celsius dalam tempoh 1900 hingga tahun 2000 berpunca daripada pelepasan gas rumah kaca atau GHG yang disebabkan oleh kesan anthropogenic activity manusia. Lebih membimbangkan, suhu bumi akan terus meningkat sehingga mencecah 1.5 darjah Celsius menjelang tahun 2030. Sekiranya kita tidak mengambil langkah drastik untuk mengurangkan pelepasan gas rumah kaca, suhu bumi akan terus meningkat dan mungkin mencecah sehingga 4 darjah Celsius di masa akan datang. Selain daripada itu, impak peningkatan suhu bumi ini akan mempengaruhi pencairan di kawasan kutub dan kenaikan paras air laut. Menurut laporan IPCC, kepanasan kawasan Arktik adalah sekitar 2 hingga 3 darjah Celsius lebih tinggi berbanding pemanasan global, iaitu sekitar 1 darjah Celsius. Secara tidak langsung, ia telah menyebabkan pengurangan ais laut di lautan Arktik dan mengakibatkan pencairan ais di kawasan dataran Siberia dan utara Kanada. Tuan-tuan dan puan-puan sekalian, benua Antartika dan wilayah Arktik terletak kira-kira 10,000 km daripada Malaysia. Segelintir masyarakat bersikap pesimis dan beranggapan kawasan kutub yang jauh tidak memberi kesan kepada kehidupan kita. Hakikatnya, sistem bumi berkait rapat dengan atmosfera dan lautan yang tentunya akan membawa lebihan suhu panas atau suhu sejuk ke sesuatu kawasan ke kawasan yang lain untuk mengimbangi dan menstabilkan muka bumi. Tuan-tuan dan puan-puan sekalian, pencapaian Malaysia mengurus tadbir dan menjalankan aktiviti pendidikan Antartika di peringkat global sangat signifikan dan sangat unik meskipun tanpa mempunyai stesen pendidikan di Antartika. Pendidikan negara dengan bantuan YAFAZM dan NARC memperoleh akses strategik daripada hasil kerjasama dan perjanjian dengan beberapa program daripada negara-negara yang mempunyai kapasiti logistik di Antartika. Lebih membanggakan, pencapaian kita telah diiktiraf oleh komuniti antarabangsa setelah Malaysia diterima sebagai ahli Scientific Committee of Antarctic Research atau SCAR pada tahun 2008. Para penyidik negara juga mainkan peranan penting dengan mengetuai banyak kumpulan kerja saintifik SCAR seperti Tropical Antarctic Teleconnection. Saya turut dimaklumkan bahawa satu bengkel kerja Tropical Antarctic Teleconnection telah diadakan semalam, iaitu sehari sebelum majlis perasmian ini. Saya berharap hasil bengkel tersebut akan beri banyak manfaat dan pulangan yang sangat baik kepada negara kita. Saya turut berbesar hati Komiti Pendidikan Antarabangsa telah membuka peluang dan memberi keyakinan kepada kita untuk menjalin kerjasama lebih erat untuk menjalankan aktiviti pendidikan Antartika seperti yang termaktub dalam memorandum persefahaman atau MOU antara Malaysia dan Ukraine dan Chile yang akan dimeterai sebentar lagi insya-Allah. Sementara itu, Malaysia juga sedang menjalinkan kerjasama MOU dengan United Kingdom bagi tempoh 5 tahun bermula tahun 2019 hingga 2024. Sukacita juga dimaklumkan bahawa Malaysia kini menjadi pengerusi ASEAN Forum on Polar Science atau AFOPS bagi penggal 2021 hingga 2022. Forum yang turut dianggotai oleh negara lain seperti China, Jepun, Korea, India dan Thailand bertujuan untuk menggalakkan kerjasama pendidikan polar dalam kalangan negara-negara Asia. Setakat ini, Malaysia adalah satu-satunya negara di Asia Tenggara yang meratifikasikan kedua perjanjian antarabangsa mengenai Antartika. Dalam kalangan negara Islam pula, hanya Turki yang mempunyai status sama walaupun baru memulakan pendidikan Antartika secara serius pada tahun 2015. Sesungguhnya, amat besar harapan kita pada masa hadapan, Malaysia akan menjadi negara Islam pertama insya-Allah yang memiliki stesen pendidikan sendiri dan termasuk insya-Allah rumah ibadah di Antartika. Tuan-tuan dan puan-puan sekalian, Malaysia sedang menggubal rang undang-undang Antartika bagi melaksanakan Treaty Antartika termasuk Protokol Madrid supaya negara akan menjadi ahli konsultatif yang terlibat dalam proses membuat keputusan. Pembentangan rang undang-undang di Parlimen insya-Allah dijangka pada tahun 2022. Akta ini menjadi pemangkin yang membenarkan Malaysia sebagai negara ASEAN, malah negara Islam pertama yang menganggotai ahli konsultatif Treaty Antartika. Kita akan lebih aktif dalam mengurus tadbir 10% kawasan bumi yang sedang mendapat perhatian dalam usaha memitigasi dan adaptasi perubahan iklim. Tuan-tuan dan puan-puan sekalian, Kasar Manusia YAFAZM komited menyokong perkembangan aktiviti pendidikan Antartika sejak ditubuhkan pada tahun 2012. Sebanyak 32 juta ringgit telah pun dibelanjakan untuk program pendidikan Antartika sejak tahun 1999 dan terkini saya difahamkan Yang Fazam akan menubuhkan kerusi sains Antartika di Universiti Awam pada tahun hadapan untuk mencapai beberapa objektif seperti meneraju aktiviti pendidikan dan penerbitan, menjalin kerjasama dengan komuniti antarabangsa dan meningkatkan kecemerlangan akademik dan dalam pelbagai bidang, khususnya bidang pendidikan di kalangan akademik tempatan. Tuan-tuan dan puan-puan yang dihormati sekalian, tahniah dan syabas kepada Yang Fazam atas inisiatif yang sungguh bermakna ini. InsyaAllah Yang Fazam akan meraihkan ulang tahun ke-10 pada penubuhannya pada tahun hadapan. Dan setinggi segi tahniah dan terima kasih sekali lagi kepada semua yang terlibat dalam menganjurkan seminar ini. Mudah-mudahan seminar ini berjalan lancar, beroleh manfaat, diberkati oleh Allah Subhanahu wa taala. Mudah-mudahan Allah pelihara kita daripada wabak Covid-19, negara kita juga turut dipelihara oleh Allah taala. Mudah-mudahan Allah taala merahmati dan memberkati usaha kita dan permudahkan usaha kita insya-Allah. Sirah ala barakatillah. Semoga semua yang hadir diberkati oleh Allah Subhanahu wa taala. Wallahu a'lam. Aqulu qawli hadza astaghfirullah azim li wa lakum. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera. Terima kasih.
Thank you to the Honourable Datuk Seri Tuan Ibrahim Tuan Man. Your presence here, albeit virtually, is of much value to us today.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my deep pleasure and great honor to welcome His Royal Highness Awatikul Bila Sultan Mizan Zainal Abidin Ibni Armahum Sultan Mahmud Al-Muqtafi Bila Shah, the Sultan of Terengganu and the patron of Yayasan Pendidikan Antartika Sultan Mizan, to officiate the opening ceremony of MISA9. Ampun Tuanku.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wabihi nasta'in. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera and a very good morning. Ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome all guests and participants to the 9th Malaysian International Seminar on Antarctica, jointly organized by Yayasan Penyelidikan Antartika Sultan Mizan, University Technology Mara and the National Antarctic Research Centre, with the support of the Ministry of Environment and Water, Malaysia. I am happy to note that despite unprecedented situation we are going through COVID-19, the seminar still receives overwhelming support from all of you. The response shows commitment and interest to this very subject of advancing Antarctic research. The COVID-19 pandemic has posed a significant challenge to the world both today. As the pandemic evolves, the world is turning to science and technological application to stop the spread of the disease and, most importantly, to treat the patients. While science and technological advancement are being used in developing effective vaccines, it also helps in improving data collection and reliable evidence to support public health decision making. The same collaborative effort has been applied today in the continuous effort to address climate change issues. In fact, in light of the alarming report by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change published this year, it is crucial to increase the funding of scientific research to assist researchers to continue producing reliable data and evidence for policymakers to make an informed decision to deal with the threat of climate change. Ladies and gentlemen, some scientists have said we have now entered the age of Anthropocene, and climate change is a known fact. In fact, climate change is the most daunting challenge that humanity has ever faced. These changes are mainly due to the impact of unsustainable development practices and mismanagement of our environment. In the Antarctic, the main symptom of climate change is seen through the large-scale melting in the ice sheets. This phenomenon is predicted to continue and accelerate with each passing year. Our theme for this seminar, Polar Regions Matter in the Global Climate Crisis, rightly points to to the fundamental reason we cannot as to what is happening in the polar region and how it will affect all of us and our future generations. Even here in Malaysia, we are not exempt by climate change effects. We are experiencing a warming trend and its impact in the past decades. All this will negatively affect planetary health, including deterioration in economic growth, loss of livelihood opportunities, human health impacts, and biodiversity loss. Therefore, it is not a choice, but an obligation for every nation to be concerned about Antarctic continent and the potential climatic changes that can occur. Our climate is the engine that acts as the life support system that sustains and nurtures us. Thus, humankind needs to conserve and protect this pristine Antarctic environment and ecosystem before further damage is done. While efforts to act on climate change need to be undertaken at political level to implement various policies and to carry out adaptation and mitigation efforts, I would like to stress that for research to thrive in Antarctic, we must have a policy framework with resource mobilization in support of Antarctic research endeavors. It is gratifying to note that Malaysia has made progress in its focus on the continent of Antarctic. In retrospect, Malaysia's involvement started when Malaysia's fourth Prime Minister made a pivotal statement at the United Nations General Assembly in 1982. The statement was simply the question of Antarctica. Since then, a series of developments in terms of diplomacy, science and governance regarding the continent took place in the following years. These efforts shows without a doubt that Malaysia is committed to addressing the issues of global concerns, especially climate change, and ensuring continued protection and assessment of the various environmental impact in the Antarctica continent. I hope the seminar that has brought together a wide array of participants will be beneficial in continuing the discussion regarding applying scientific research to support sound policy and decision-making on climate change. I wish to convey my gratitude to the Ministry of Environment and Water for spearheading Malaysia's involvement in Antarctica and the support provided to Yayasan Penyelidikan Antarctica Sultan Mizan, of which I am the patron. I am happy to note, since the establishment of YPASM, the Foundation has provided a substantial number of polar research grants and support worth Ringgit Malaysia 6 million, mainly to young Malaysian scientists, which I hope will contribute to in-depth understanding on the rapidly changing natural environment and to ensure the capacity to project future change. Malaysia has grown from strength to strength in its scientific endeavors, and I must also congratulate Malaysian scientists from various universities who have made the country proud in Antarctic research. I hope the research in Antarctica will also help us with our country's effort to address planetary health challenges, including climate change. On this note, and in the name of Allah, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, it is my pleasure and honor to declare the 9th Malaysian International Seminar on Antarctica open. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much indeed to His Royal Highness Awatiku Billah Sultan Mizan Zainal Abidin Ibni Armahum Sultan Mahmud Al-Muktakafi Billah Shah, the Sultan of Terengganu, for gracing us with your presence. Ampun Tuanku.
Ladies and gentlemen, on that note, let us now have a look at a brief video montage to commemorate the 9th Malaysian International Seminar on Antarctica.
unequivocal that human activities are responsible for climate change. That's the finding of a new study by the UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. It's the most up-to-date assessment of how global warming will change the world in the coming decades.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will now continue today's ceremony by announcing the winners of the diorama creation competition based on the recycled material organized by the Ministry of Environmental and Water and Yayasan Penyelidikan Antartika Sultan Mizan, supported by the Ministry of Education. The competition was held in conjunction with National Environment Day 2021 or Hari Alam Sekitar Negara 2021 and MISA9 from 15 August to 6 October 2021 and was open to all secondary schools throughout Malaysia. The theme of the competition was Polar Regions in a Climate Change Crisis. A diorama is a three-dimensional model that contains a variety of objects to illustrate real situations created for educational or exhibition purposes. A total of 246 entries from 6 secondary schools were received after the deadline of the competitions, and the winners are a huge round of applause and congratulations to all the winners.
Ladies and gentlemen, the next segment of today's ceremony is the announcement of the Yayasan Penyelidikan Antartika Sultan Mizan Smart Partnership Initiative Fund 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, since the establishment in 2012, YPASM has funded research to Antarctica amounting to ringgit Malaysia 6 billion. The fund is divided into 3 categories. YPASM Polar Research Grant for research in the Polar and the Southern Ocean region, YPASM Fellowship Scheme grant to encourage the active involvement of young scientists in polar scientific research, and birth support to Antarctica, which has 2 categories, birth support to BUS research station and birth support to Antarctica through SCARS members countries. For the year 2021, YPASM received a total of 32 proposals and YPASM is pleased to announce that its Board of Trustees has approved funding for 9 projects, which are 6 research grants, 1 fellowship scheme, 2 birth support to Antarctica amounting to ringgit Malaysia 1,087,000. The YPASM Smart Partnership Initiative Fund 2021 recipient for each category are, for YPASM Polar Research 2021 are as follow. Professor Dr. Clement Wong, Michael Wong Wui Ling from University Malaysia Sabah, project title Elucidating the Antarctic Streptomyces Antimicrobial Compound Mechanism of Action through Global Transcriptome Profiling. Next, Dr. Koh Yi from International Medical University, project title Influence of Polyethylene Micro and Nanoplastic on the Combined Toxicity of Copper and Lead in Antarctic Microalgae based on suite of biomarkers and transcriptomic profile. Associate Professor Dr. Muhammad Syahrul Muhammad Nazir from University Kebangsaan Malaysia, project title Making Sense of Sensor, a new way to conduct real-time monitoring, evaluating model and source estimation for isoprene and surface ozone in remote area of Peninsula Antarctic. Associate Professor Dr. Sharifah Aminah Said Muhammad from University Technology Mara, project title Neuroprotection Properties of Lactic Acid Bacteria Isolated from Penguin Guano in Antarctic Region. Dr. Japareng Lalung from University Science Malaysia, project title Phosphorus Scavenging Mechanism from Plastic as an Untapped Phosphorus Source for Antarctic Cyanobacteria, a Molecular, Biochemical and Isotope Labeling Approach. Dr. Muhammad Rizman Aidit from University Malaya, project title Unlocking the Antimicrobial Potential and Ecological Adaptive Roles in Metabolites from Pseudogymnoascus grown under increased temperature. For YPASM Fellowship Scheme 2021, the recipient is Mr. Sulaiman Ali Muhammad from University Kebangsaan Malaysia, project title Characteristic of Lightning Flashes over Antarctica and its Response to the Upper Atmosphere. For YPASM Birth Support to Bus Research Station in Antarctica 2021, the recipient is Dr. Wan Lutfi Wan Johari from University Putra Malaysia, project title Multi-omic Analysis of its Impact of Climate Change and Pollution on Nitrogen-Fixing Microbial Communities. And lastly, for YPASM Birth Support to Antarctica through SCARS Members Country 2021, the recipient is Ms. Nur Nadirah Zakaria, project title A System Approach for Diesel Cleanup Using Filtration and Antarctic Marine Bacteria. Congratulations to all recipients.
Ladies and gentlemen, coming up next is a much awaited item on our agenda today, the keynote speech. Hence, it is an honor for us to introduce you to our keynote speaker, the Honorable Professor Datuk Dr. Azizan Abu Samah. Professor Datuk Dr. Azizan Abu Samah is a professor in the field of meteorology, currently employed as a senior research fellow in the Institute of Earth and Ocean Sciences at the University Malaya. He is also the interim director of the National Antarctic Research Centre based at the same university. He was one of the vice president of the Scientific Committee on Antarctic Research, SCAR, and is on the editorial board on the Polar Journal and Polar Sciences. He was the Malaysian coordinator of the European Union Research Project SHIVA, Stratospheric Ozone, Halogen Impact in a Varying Atmosphere, and a steering member committee of ASEAN Pacific Rim University, World Institute Pacific Rim Cities Climate Change Mitigation and Adaptation Strategies, and is a member of the International Scientific Advisory Committee of ASEAN Network of Climate Science and Technology. One of the highlights of his scientific career in 1999, Yang Berbahagia Datuk was the first Malaysian to lead scientific research at Scott-based Antarctic, and he has been a very active researcher in Antarctic meteorology and climate ever since. He was also been invited to review many research articles and proposals for atmospheric sciences and environment, for international journals such as Polar Sciences and Research Foundation. Professor Datuk Dr. Azizan Abu Sama is one of the founding members of the Sultan Mizan Antarctic Research Foundation. He is a fellow of the Malaysian Academy of Sciences and honorary professor in the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences in University. He has published 4 books and several chapters in books. To date, he has first authored and co-authored in more than 90 journal articles in high-impact journals. He also is an active researcher in the principal investigator in several national and international research initiatives, working on ASC interactions in the South China Sea, winter monsoon cold surge, severe Antarctic weather, tropical polar teleconnections, and climate change both in the tropics and polar region. Ladies and gentlemen, speaking on the topic of polar regions matters to the tropic, a case of continuity on the global system, please welcome the Director of the National Antarctic Research Center, the Honorable Professor Datuk Dr. Azizan Abu Sama.
Thank you very much for a very nice write-up. Let me share my slide if I can. Can the administrator let me share? Thank you. Just going through it to make sure that. All right. Okay, can everybody see the slide?
Yes, clear,
Okay.
Datuk.
Thank you very much. And can you hear me well? This is one of the issue of doing things online. So my talk and keynote talk today is polar region matter to the tropics. So basically, I'm concentrating of how the polar region impact in the tropic, and is a case of the continuity of the global system. And basically, I'm coming from the point of most of the work that I'm going to talk about is also work under the process of being researched upon with my group in the university. So quite a lot of the material are original material that some of them have been published and some are in the process of being published. And those I named below are work my colleague, Shiba, my PhD student, Atika, my postdoc, Fadil, and also I think Yunus is also in, but that's my other PhD student. And this work being carried at our university at the National Antarctic Research Center in the University of Malaya. Okay, now I can't move the thing. Okay, so the outline of this talk will be on the issue of global warming and climate crisis. I'll be just having a glimpse of what are the issue of global warming. And then some of the work that we are undertaking, teleconnection between the polar region in the tropics. Most important is the global impact of ENSO. And the other one that is quite unique in the sense that our group is trying to pioneer is the other way around, in which polar regions signal to the tropics. And this is done by a few case studies. One is in the Arctic, where we study how the Siberian high and the Arctic oscillation and its variability impact on the winter monsoon of Malaysia. The other one is our study about in the Indian monsoon area, where we're studying how masculine high impact on the summer monsoon in India, which has just been published recently. The other one is more general, is on sea level rise and ice sheet melting in the polar region, which I would like to say that there's someone in UMT who's working on this area under what you call a long-term Ministry of Higher Education funding. We also have Dr. Wichia, who is looking on role of ocean and nutrient in peak transport. And the other one that I would like to add is the economic impact of Arctic sea ice melt, which is, has been reported that the Arctic sea ice has been decreasing markedly. Okay, so when you go to the global warming scenario, what you have on the left side is the predicted and observed temperature rise, and the scenario is, SSP 5, 8.5 means 850 part per million of carbon dioxide, which means business as usual. The other one is if you are able to do some mitigation, what we are hoping for is SSP 1 to 2.6, which we are hoping to be in that level where we are thinking of limiting the temperature to about 2 degrees. And SP2 is if what you call, if we went up to 450 part per million. So we were expecting about 2.5 degree temperature rise from the 1900 level. Now, the other thing that I would like you to note is that in terms of regional impact, the regional impact in the Arctic and also in the Antarctic and in the continent is much bigger than the global temperature rise. So, you can look at, let's say, the bottom picture where it shows 1.5 degree global warming. You see that in the polar region, especially the Arctic, you're talking about 3 to 3.5. Similarly, if you're talking about 2 degree warming, then the polar region is about 4. So what I'm trying to show is that for global warming, for let's say a 2 degree global warming, you expect that the polar region will maybe double in terms of that warming, and it has some important significance. And one of the issue with warming of the global region is that in the global region, the ice sheet traps a lot of fresh water. And when this fresh water melt, it will then contribute to the sea level rise. And sea level rise can be due to 50% temperature increase itself, but 50% comes from glacier melting. So most of the big glaciers, most of the ice sheets are trapped in the polar region. And so when they melt, they expect that by 2100, most of the SP predict about either a meter to a 0.5 meter rise in sea level. And that has a significant impact on the coast, which I will come later. And again, this is observed data. For those who think, model data doesn't tell you, this is observed data taken from 1970 to 2004. And what you can see is the general picture that you saw even in the CIMIC 6 is reflected in observation. So it's not something that the model just generated. It is a real thing. Now, I would like to come back to South Asia, because South Asia actually is a victim of climate change. Because 4,000 years ago, in the last interglacial, we were covered by land known as the Sunda platform. And this sinking of the Sunda land is the one that resulted when the last interglacial occurred, and we have a sea level rise in our region, and that is how we came to be a group of islands instead of one big mass of land. And this has significant, what you call, influence on our paleobiology. I mean, you find Asian elephants in Peninsula, Asian elephants in Sumatra, the Sumatran tigers, and the Malayan tigers, and the orangutan were actually living in the Sunda platform, and then they got isolated for the orangutan from in Borneo and only in Sumatra. And also, we are separated from the Australian megafauna. So this contributes to our paleobiology. Okay. One of the things that occur in our region that is of great significance is the ENSO. ENSO has two cycles. First is the neutral or the La Nina cycle, where you can see is an east-west circulation, and the main area where the ascending motion is over in our region, and that's why we have this tropical humid ecosystem, that make our forest one of the oldest in the world. And we have a sinking motion in the what you call eastern South America. So you have cooling over the South American bit of the Pacific, and then you have warming over in the Philippines and bit in the South China Sea, and that causes the general circulation known as the Walker circulation, and that controls a lot of our weather in 2 to 3 year cycle. So on, I'm going to make it. Oh, it's not moving at the moment. I don't know why. Okay. Now, the reverse happen when you have an ENSO situation, where in this case, the sea surface temperature moves toward the center of the Pacific, and it breaks the east-west circulation or the local circulation, in which now you have descending motion over our region. So the warming is now in the Central Pacific. It's no longer on the what you call Philippine side, and also the warming is also in the South American side, and this shift the whole region of ascending motion to be to the center and also to the area around South America. And these changes has a significant influence, not only to our region because we have drier season, but also towards the world. So you can see how La Nina or neutral impact. So when you have La Nina, you have wet, but you can see the wet is not only in our region, but the wet is also in Africa, East Africa, is also in the Amazon, and you have drier in the US. And you have also its influence in the Arctic and the Antarctic, which is under investigation. And for us, for the Antarctic, we have done some investigation of how ENSO impact on the Antarctic. And when you have the reverse, El Nino, then you have a very dry area in our region and also in Australia, and you have very wet in the Central Pacific and also in West America. And you have also wet in around California. So in the sense, ENSO is good for US because the southern bit of US, California, gets quite a lot more rain when it has ENSO impact. And the latest ENSO is 2019, and you can see how dry the region became, especially in Sumatra, especially India, And this also contributed to transboundary haze that we experienced in 2019. So ENSO has a global impact. It's not only impacting on our region, it's also impact on the Arctic and also impact on the Antarctic. Right. And this is our research done, published in 2015, where we show how severe strong wind event in the Ross Ice Shelf and its relation between La Nina and ENSO. And what we see is that for ENSO, the severe wind event decrease in the Ross area, and from La Nina, we have some increase in severe wind event. So these are some of the ongoing area of research and some of the areas that we are looking at is how ENSO influenced the Antarctic Peninsula. Now, the more interesting endeavor that we are undertaking is how the polar region impact on the tropics. So this is a reverse. And in order for you to understand it, we go back to the three basic, this is really old meteorology, where you have, some of it is already debunked, but the Hadley cell is not. This is how nature transfer the extra heat in the tropics and bring it to the polar region. It does it in the meridional term by what you call, this is a schematic called the Hadley cell, the Ferrel cell, and the polar cell. And what you can see is that the Hadley cell, you have air rising over the equator and then sinking about 30 degrees north and south. And you have the Ferrel cell with air descending around the high pressure area called the subtropical high, and then ascending near where you have the convergence zone between the polar cell and the Ferrel cell. Okay, this generated what is known as the subtropical high, which means a semi-permanent high pressure area located about 20 to 30 degrees south and north of the equator. And this is called the subtropical high. And normally the subtropical high is strongest during the winter of its respective hemisphere. And it is through this subtropical high that the signal from the tropic can be transferred to the tropic. So that you have signal from the polar region, and via the subtropical high, this signal is then transmitted to the tropical region. And this is the core of our present research, where we are looking at the Indian subtropical high in the Indian Ocean, known as the masculine high. And in the winter of our time, of the Northern Hemisphere, we are looking at the Siberian high, and to see how does the Siberian high impact on our northeast monsoon or our winter monsoon, and how does the masculine high impact on the Indian monsoon. So first I will do a case study of how Arctic oscillation and Siberian high impact on our northeast monsoon. Now, this is when the Arctic circulation is strong, you have a strong circumpolar circulation. When the Arctic is cold, you have very strong circumpolar circulation over the Arctic that isolate the cold air from coming down further south of the Arctic. However, if the Arctic is not as cold and is warming, what you have outbreak of cold air coming out. Now, in the case of the Atlantic, it speculated that it will have a weaker trade wind. That means a weaker northeast monsoon or a weaker northeast flow in the Atlantic. However, in the case of the Pacific region, in our region, what we see is that back here, when you have cold outbreak, that means the Siberian high becomes colder. So you have quite a converse situation. A warmer Arctic will produce a colder Siberian high because of the outbreak of cold air coming out in winter. So in the Atlantic, it predicts a weaker trade wind, but when you have a warmer Arctic, you have a colder subtropical Siberian high in our region, that in fact contributed conversely to a stronger northeast monsoon. And this can be seen when AO is negative, that means you have very warm Arctic, you have a very colder Siberian high, and in fact that results in a stronger northeast monsoon. Conversely, when the Arctic is colder, the Siberian high is warmer, as you can see, and that will then contribute to a weaker monsoon. So it's our region respond quite opposite to that in the Atlantic. And so we have determined, a Siberian high. We saw we did some index to see the correlation, and this is the anomaly work. So you can see during when positive, when the Siberian high is cold and the Arctic is warm, we have a stronger northeast monsoon, and converse in the the left picture. And what you can see is that when the Arctic is colder but the Siberian high is warmer in anomaly term, you can see a weaker northeast monsoon. Now this is important because this will then can be used for a mid-range weather forecasting for the country, because then it will give us maybe a lead of 1 or 2 months for us to predict whether the northeast monsoon is going to be weaker or the northeast monsoon for this particular season is going to be stronger. So then can prepare with 1 month ahead. Now, the other one that I like to show is our case study of the Mascarene High, which is the one related to the Indian summer monsoon and its relation to sea ice extent. And this is a paper that we have published just recently in Polar Sciences in 2020. And I think it's the first time, I think the Indian meteorologists are a bit not happy with us because we beat them in this publication. And we show how sea ice extend in the Antarctic, the Indian side of Antarctica impact on the Indian monsoon. Solon, trying to move the thing. Okay. So first thing, of course, you do a cross correlation, and what you see is that in terms of sea ice extent, there is a strong correlation of, peninsular rain of 0.6, which means that if you have very high sea ice, you have more rain, and you have low sea ice, you have less rain in the peninsular region of India. So this is in the tip of India, not the one towards the north. And this can be seen in terms of the sea ice extent, in terms of the Indian Ocean, Antarctic, and the Indian monsoon rain. So you can see a strong correlation, especially in the peninsula of 0.44. That shows that there's a very strong influence of sea ice extent in the Indian Ocean side of the Antarctic with the summer monsoon rainfall of peninsular side of India. So we do a composite analysis between the two periods. One, when we have very lot of sea ice over the Antarctic, and the other when we have less sea ice. And then we study how does that translate into the Mascarene High. And we do this by doing an anomaly analysis. The first picture the red and blue picture is what you call the potential. And where it's blue, it means that the air is sinking a lot. And where it's red, it means that the air is rising, which means that the ferrule cell is very active. While the sinking shows that the polar cell is also very active, because you have sinking and then you have rising, the ascending branch. So back to the three cell circulation that I showed earlier. And now what you can see is that the masculine high is now much stronger, and so is the where it's marked red, the Somali jet is also much stronger during high ice phase year. And that, of course, contribute to a more active convection, especially in India, and you have a much active, more active Hadley circulation over India, associated with the high ice phase, and of course you have more rain. Now, conversely, when you have low sea ice, what you have is the opposite in terms of geopotential anomaly. The geopotential is less depressed over the polar region, shows that the descending motion is not as strong, and the ascending motion over the ferrule and the polar cell region is also less. The geopotential line is blue, meaning it's less. It doesn't go up as much, indicating that you have less convection over in between the ascending branch or the polar and the ferrule cell. And when you look at the anomaly of the low level circulation, the masculine high is weaker, and you can see that in a way it's reversed. That means it's weaker. It's not as strong as in the high ice phase here. And you can see that the sign of the what you call the red box, the Somali jet, is reversed. It means that it's slower than normal. And this, of course, contributed to a lesser active Hadley cell. So during low ice phase, both the polar cell is less active, the ferrule cell is less active, and the Hadley cell is also less active. And so we did a correlation between those two, and sorry. Okay, and so this is the three cell. So when high ice phase, all the cells are very active, very strong. The descending motion is very strong. The rising motion in the polar region is in the polar cell and ferrule cell. The ascending branch is strong, and in the also in the Indian side is also strong. And you can see this when you do a meridional circulation composite during the high ice phase, and you see on the left a very strong Hadley circulation. You can see a very strong ferrule, what you call ascending. You can see where the red are, you can see the strong ascent. And then when the blue are, you can see the strong descent associated with high ice phase. Now, what I want to show you is why the importance of the masculine high. Now, if you look at wave activities, that's the arrow that I'm showing to you, you can see that the signal from the polar region goes only up to 40 degrees south, which is the masculine high region. While the signal from the tropical region, from the arrows, you can see it propagating also to the masculine high. So when you have high ice phase region, the masculine high act as a modulator, both in terms of signal from the polar region towards the tropic, and also signal from the tropics toward the polar region. And so that's why the core of our research that we are now doing is looking at how does the subtropical high interact and how does the signal from the tropic goes to the pole, and also how does the signal from the pole goes to the tropic. And this, of course, have where the ascending motion is where you have the blue color in the OLR, which measures precipitation. And so you have where you have the descending motion, you have red, that means there's less precipitation. And where you have the ascending motion increase, you have blue, which means there's more precipitation associated with that. So when in the case of the low ice phase region, you can see the opposite happening. You can see a much weaker Hadley. So you can see in 10-degree north, normally it seems as if the Hadley is descending, but it's not descending. It's just saying that it's weaker. And then where the descending at 10 degrees south, instead of descending, you have ascending. It just indicates a weaker Hadley circulation and also a weaker Ferrel circulation and a weaker polar cell circulation. And the interesting bit about here is that in the leap year, the signal from the tropic is able to communicate all the way to the Antarctic. So it indicates that in terms of wave activities, the influence of the tropic is much stronger when you have low sea ice phase in the Antarctic for this particular region. And so this is a schematic. When you have high ice phase, you have a much stronger meridional circulation right away from the Hadley, Ferrel, and the polar cell. Now, I now go quickly because I think I'm a bit over time. Now, I want to look at sea level rise and polar ice sheet melt. And the prediction is that we are going to have maybe about 3.4 mm per year, which means, translated it to about 1 meter to 0.5 meter by 21st century. And what I want to show is that the contribution from the West Antarctic ice sheet, that's the one in blue, that now you can see contributing a big extent to the total ice sheet melt of the Antarctic and also to the globe. And this is something in which we need to be very study carefully, because this can be a tipping point. How stable is the West Antarctic ice sheet? Because it is an ice sheet resting in a warm ocean. And it has huge, ramification. This is the inundation that will occur in our region, especially Mekong area. And, it has quite a lot of, and Sumatra also is quite impacted. So this is something that we must watch carefully, because this sea level rise will have a global impact. The other one is that the Antarctic is also an important source of what you call Antarctic bottom water. And that is the one that drives our thermal haline circulation. And 60% of the bottom water that drives the global thermohaline circulation comes from the Antarctic. And this drives the three major oceans. It drives the Indian Ocean, it drives the Atlantic Ocean, and it drives the Pacific Ocean. So anything that is happening to the sea ice, which is the one that generates your bottom water, will have an impact on the thermohaline circulation. And the thermohaline circulation is also an important contribution, because 70% of the nutrient is transported through this particular circulation. And you can see in the sense the ocean also plays an important heat flux transport, especially from the tropic to the polar region. And this is one area in which one of our PhD students is working on at the moment. Now, climate change also brings opportunities. Here I show you how the Antarctic sea ice is decreasing, and it is predicted that by, I think, 2050, that you may even have no sea ice in the summer in the Arctic Ocean. Because you must remember, Antarctic is a continent surrounded by ocean, Arctic is an ocean surrounded by continent. So the ramification is that if the Arctic Ocean is free of sea ice, then especially in summer, then shipping can go across the Arctic Ocean. And here I'd like to show you the sea route and the importance of the Strait of Malacca and what are the ramifications if the northern sea route is open. It has a tremendous ramification to Singapore, it has tremendous ramification to our ports, and it has tremendous question in terms of the geopolitics. You know, why the South China Sea is important is because of this present route, but possibility when if the northern sea route is open, then the shipping between Europe and China and Europe and Japan need not necessarily go over the Strait of Malacca anymore. So there's an important ramification and economic value. So in summary, ENSO is a very strong influence, so it influences everything. There is a direct pathway, especially from the tropic to the polar region, and is moderated by the subtropical high. In terms of Asian winter monsoon, the influence of the Arctic is very important, especially the Siberian high. And you see a converse, the warming of the Arctic may produce a stronger northeast monsoon. And in case of the summer monsoon, in the Indian summer monsoon, we have established a very strong connectivity between the monsoon and the sea ice extent in the Indian monsoon Antarctic. And finally, this also brings opportunities and also economic. The crisis is not totally negative. It can also bring something positive. Thank you very much.
Thank you to the Honorable Professor Dato Dr. Azizan Abu Sama. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you will agree with us that was very insightful keynote speech, and I am sure there is much value to take away from what was delivered by our keynote speaker. Thank you once again to the Honorable Professor Dato Dr. Azizan Abu Sama.
Ladies and gentlemen, next we will now move on to the next segment of today's event, which is the Memorandum of Understanding signing ceremony. Throughout the year, YPASM and NARC has created several international smart collaboration through the signing of a Memorandum of Understanding. The MOU can be seen as a starting point for negotiation as it defines the scope and purpose of the collaboration. Such memoranda are often seen as an international treaty negotiation. This year, to continue with such tradition, there will be 2 official signing of MOUs to strengthen the collaboration between 2 international counterparts. The first signing is between Yayasan Penyelidikan Antartika Sultan Mizan, which will be represented by Mr. Muhammad Nasaruddin Abdul Rahman, the Chief Executive Officer of YPASM, and the National Antarctic Scientific Center of Ukraine will be represented by Dr. Evgen Deki, the Director of NASC.
Congratulations to all. May this MOU kick off a fruitful alliance between both organizations that will be benefits the target communities. Now, we will move to the second signing, which is between the National Antarctic Research Center, which is presented by Professor Dato Dr. Azizan Abu Sama, the Interim Director of NARC, and the Instituto Antártico Chileno, which is represented by Dr. Marcelo Lepe, Director of INACH. Congratulations. We believe that the signing of today's MOUs will further strengthen the cooperation among all partners, which in turn benefits our stakeholders.
Ladies and gentlemen, let us now welcome His Excellency Alexander Nechytailo, Ambassador of Ukraine to Malaysia, to deliver his speech.
Dear Ministry's officials, fellow ambassadors and representatives of the respective embassies, members of the boards of trustees of YPASM, officials from the universities, invited speakers and participants of MISA9. I'm truly delighted and honored to join the virtual opening ceremony of the 9th Malaysian International Seminar of Antarctica, titled Polar Regions Matter in Our Climate Crisis, hosted by the University Technology Mara. Today's event is a clear recognition of the significant progress made by Malaysia in the Antarctic research over the past 20+ years. Such progress would have been impossible without two key ingredients, such as strong national scientific foundation and the international cooperation with other countries. I would like to take this opportunity to particularly acknowledge and to express my sincere gratitude to four individuals: His Royal Highness Sultan Mizan Zainal Abidin, Sultan of Terengganu and sovereign ruler of the state and the territory of Terengganu, Darul Iman, and all its dependencies; Tan Sri Dr. Saleh Mohammed bin Mohammed Noor, who wears many hats and YPASM trustee is only one of them; Mr. Mohammed Nasaruddin Abdul Rahman, Chief Executive Officer of the YPASM; and last but not least, Dr. Yevhen Dickey, Director of the Ukraine National Antarctic Scientific Center. Their role was indeed invaluable in establishing and spearheading cooperation between Ukraine and Malaysia in Antarctic research. I extend a warm welcome to the Ukrainian scientists and researchers who will present 10 reports during the seminar in the area of biology and physical studies, as well as policy and governance. Ladies and gentlemen, today's signing of the MOU between the Sultan Mizan Antarctic Research Foundation and the National Antarctic Scientific Center of Ukraine marks an important milestone in our collaboration, bringing it to a new level. Now we may embark on a joint expeditions and field camp activities by the exchange of expertise and joint use of facilities for the mutual benefit. As you are all well aware, Ukraine is among the limited number of countries that own and run year-round research base in Antarctica. Earlier this year, we marked the 25th anniversary of the Vernadsky Station. In August this year, Ukraine also acquired RRS James Clark Ross, that for the past 3 decades has been a world-leading research platform for biological, oceanographic, and geophysical research. She contains some of the most advanced facilities of the oceanographic research in both Antarctica and the Arctic. The ice-capable ship is a new asset for Ukraine, and I'm very happy that from now on, her state-of-the-art facilities will be available to the Malaysian researchers. At the conclusion, I would like to wish all the organizers and participants a successful event. I have no doubt that today's seminar will bring about new opportunities and new partnerships. I also hope that our countries will continue working together, especially in light of the upcoming COP26 conference in November, contributing to the global effort to address climate change under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. Thank you very much. Terima kasih. Ďakujem.
Thank you to His Excellency Alexander Nechytailo, Ambassador of Ukraine, for sharing your thoughts with us.
Ladies and gentlemen, next we would like to welcome His Excellency Diego Velasco, Ambassador of Chile to Malaysia, for his speech.
Terima kasih, Ibu-ibu, Bapak-bapak, selamat pagi di Malaysia, selamat malam di Chile. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning in Malaysia, good evening in Chile. It is a great honor to us, for us to be present in this very important meeting, which marks the ninth International Seminar of MISA. And first and foremost, we would like to wish you the best most extended success in this effort, because humanity needs you. Really, we are in a moment in time where water, ice, and our planet needs the best minds, the collaboration across the world, across the oceans, for us to find a solution. I would like on this moment to express my gratitude, our gratitude, Chile's gratitude to His Royal Highness Sultan MISA9, because it was his vision many years ago when he traveled to Antarctica that allowed later a collaboration with Chile, with the Institute of National Antarctic Research of Chile, INACH, with who here represented by his director, Professor Dr. Marcelo Lepe. And in this, I would like also to thank His Excellency the Minister of Water and Environment of Malaysia for his opening remarks. We have taken due note on how to continue our collaboration. The establishment of Yayasan Peñalitikan Antarctic Sultan MISA9 Foundation, it's something that has cut deeply into our Chilean side of the researches in Antarctica. And therefore, many years ago, we have had already an MOU collaborating among both countries. Today, it is our pleasure to announce that we have one keynote speaker and 10 scientists from Chile participating in the different parts of this seminar. Yayasan, IPASM, has been very, very strong on this development bonds with Chile, and hence I would like to thank Dr. Nasruddin for helping us to go again into a new level of collaboration with the MOU between INACH and the National Antarctic Research Center of Malaysia, who is going to be signed by Dato' Aziz and Dr. Lepe. There's one point I would like to pick up from the words of His Royal Highness is about the youth. And actually, I would like to congratulate on the diorama creation competition, because this brings the youth into the future, which is actually today. There's no more future about the global warming. It is a today matter that are of most importance for their development. And here, I would like also to highlight that 2019, on 25th of December, that was the first all-women expedition of Malaysia to the Antarctic continent, and they reached nearby the South Pole. Aweta, if I'm not, they were called the Ice Queens. Then here, with no further word, I would like to request Professor Lepe to say a few words of welcoming to the gates to Antarctica. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador, and I'm really happy to see these friends again on the other side of the world, looking again to continue the collaboration that we started at the beginning of the 2005, 2006. It is very interesting how the National Antarctic Program of Malaysia have evolved in the system. And we have to announce in our side that we all also have evolved during the last years. Our institute is bigger today. We have a very ambitious plan to install 21 stations to evaluate the climate change in a latitudinal gradient, starting in Kinjor Island and ending in Union Glacier for the following 6 years, transmitting in real time and offering to the international scientists the opportunity to evaluate changes in areas that we never had the instrument before. Also, we started a very ambitious plan to renew our 3 main scientific platforms, stations, is Escudero, Yelcho, and Carvajal, that you know very well. During the following 10 years, we will renew first Yelcho station, after this Carvajal station, and ending with the Escudero station that have received many times Malaysian researchers from different parts of Malaysia. And finally, I want to mention that and to express the possibility that we have to continue our collaboration. Probably a very good opportunity to produce this bottom-up collaboration will be the Open Science Conference 2024 that will be held by Chile in the cities of Pucón and Punta Arenas. The main meeting will be in Pucón, and after this, the delegates and business meetings will be in Punta Arenas. So the offer is open. We have the opportunity to produce these meetings face-to-face. I really love the opportunity to offer to all the scientists around the world the opportunity to take part of these meetings, but always the possibility to have it face-to-face and a dinner after. It's very good. And after the meeting in Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur years ago, we have produced several projects together, joint ventures that have produced fantastic papers after all. So a warm welcome again to Punta Arenas. I want to see you soon here, and I'm probably producing again this interaction in between our scientists, producing answers to this changing world. And after the presentation of Azizan, I really understand that we have part of our program be rating in the same sense. These teleconnections of Antarctica over different parameters, atmospheric, oceanographic, are producing changes in the scale that we never had before. And this new opportunity to have data in real time will be probably a big opportunity also to improve our predictions about the climate change in the near future. So thank you very much.
Thank you to His Excellency Diego Velasco, Ambassador of Chile, and also Dr. Marcelo Lepe, Director of INACH, for your sharing your views with us today.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we take our leave today, we would like to share with you a special tribute we have prepared to show our gratitude and appreciation toward one of our esteemed polar researchers, the late Honorable Professor Christopher Chu, who has sadly passed away recently. The late Professor Chu Wan Loy was a humble, kind, passionate, and brilliant scholar who has made significant contribution in both education and research, particularly in the field of algal research. Prof. Chu's passion for algae research is indescribable. His outstanding contribution to the field of microalgae and polar research were recognized both nationally and internationally. Prof. Chu will be deeply remembered as an extremely creative and brilliant scientist who was able to address biological questions. In 2021, International Medical University has published a special edition, Polar Research in the International Medical University, and the editor has specially dedicated this book to recognize his contribution to algal research. May the knowledge and experience he shared with us lead to greater wisdom and benefit communities affected by issues impacting our polar region.
gentlemen, with that, we have come to the end of today's opening ceremony. Before we end our event, I would like to request all of you to turn on your cameras and join us for a brief photo session.
Okay, get ready. Okay, one, 2, 3. Okay, next. 1, 2, 3. Okay, next. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you.
With that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today at the opening ceremony of MISA9. Here are some announcements for the audience. Please join our next event at 2 p.m. for plenary lecture via the link that been provided earlier, also the same link that been given in the chat box. Take care and enjoy the rest of seminar. Thank you.
Thank you.